Hello, my name is Alex. I'm the Advent Label Applicator Company, and this is going to be a demonstration of the Advent 200. It's a plain paper labeler designed to put sheets of labels onto any round surface from about 1 inches to 12 inches in diameter. We have an Advent 200 already warmed up. The heater switch has been on for about at least an hour. You can see it turns nice and freely. And we've already we set up this machine to do another demonstration. We were running soup cans. They did fantastic. And now we're going to go ahead and show a video of us doing a changeover to these plastic water bottles. I do want to point out that let me just go ahead and do the changeover and then I'll point out some issues with your labels. So the first thing we do is we take our stack of labels and we want to fan them forward, make sure they're fanned out. Then we just want to put it inside the center line of the machine. And you can see here the labels that we used were close, but they're this label's a little bit narrow. So we're just going to loosen up our thumb locks and we're just going to push these guides together. We also have these long label guides which can be used. They have thumb locks in the back. Not as important for short labels. I'm just going to bring them together just so you can see the adjustment. And the idea is that we want to make sure that the top label moves nice and smoothly. Let me move the overhead pressure arm out of the way. You can see that top label's moving. Alright, so we've adjusted for our labels. Really straightforward. You could go up to almost an 8.5 inch wide label. You can see the glue roller here that puts the stripes of glue on the label. And now we have to adjust for our container. So the first thing I like to bring the label down just to the edge of the peel bar. And then I just want to sight where I think that container needs to go. As you can see here, I'm going to move my guides. Same concept. I'm just loosening up the red thumb locks. And then I'm just going to sight in where I think the container needs to go. So you can see I have it blocked in. Now on this container, it's obviously a smaller diameter. So we want to adjust the carriage to accommodate the different diameters. And that's really easy on the Advent 200. You just turn it. We can adjust for different diameters. This is what allows you to go from 1 inch to 12 inches in diameter. So I'm going to go ahead and we just want it sitting off the finger bar. This finger bar is what deflects the label to the spinning container. And it just needs to be hovering over that finger bar. Okay. So we got that set. Move this guide in place. And then our final adjustment, well, we have a couple more to do, but first one would be the overhead pressure arm. That puts pressure on the unfilled or light container. You can also use it with filled containers. You can move it left and right. Just use the included Allen wrench tool. You can slide it left or right. I just like to put it in the center line. And then I adjust this gap. This acts as a stop. So what that does is when you insert the container, it keeps everything steady and allows the container not to skip or float on these rollers. Alright. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is take these labels out and just show you turning on the system. You can see how that container goes in and that would feed the label on. However, you can see the overhead pressure arm is keeping pressure on there. There's two things that we have to worry about. First of all, we have a recessed panel area here. So the label is actually going in between two ridges. And on your original labels, you have a 4-inch wide label that doesn't have enough clearance from these ridges. So what we had to do is we had to cut down the labels to give us that clearance. We cut it down about 1/8 of an inch, and that gives you some wiggle room. So we want about at least 1/16 of an inch for the label to find or not deflect on these ridges. And just to show you what that meant exactly is we trimmed about this amount off from the label to give it the wiggle room. Alright? So once we got the label sized correctly, the next issue is that we have a recessed panel area, and we need to have the container sit on the surface that the label is being applied to. We don't want these high points deflecting or tilting the container. And the rule of thumb is actually just to match the label width. So whatever your label happens to be width-wise, match that with the stainless steel collars. Then also do that with your white tires. And those are really easily adjusted just by taking your Allen wrench tool and moving them to clear any of those high points on your container. So you can see now they're kind of matching, and that allows that container to sit down on the surface of the label panel area. And let me see if I could turn that on. Oops, left the label in there. But you can see it did a fairly good job. We only had one label in there. You can see it deflected. But the idea is I wanted to show you that it's nice and smooth all the way across. We want that to be on the front and the rear. Okay? So what we could do now is put our stack of labels in the machine. Let me turn it off here. Again, fan them forward. Okay. Got our guides tight. And then let me take this existing container. I will demonstrate the skip glue pattern. It's only putting glue on the edges of the label. So if we tear it down here, this is actually a synthetic label. I thought it was a paper label. You can see it doesn't matter. And that is on there very, very securely. This label doesn't tear. So let me see if I could nick it and get it going. There we go. So we only have glue on about 2 inches on the leading edge and about 3/4 of an inch on the trailing edge. And you can see it's on there very, very securely. Okay, so that is a permanent bond. Go ahead and throw that away. Alright, so we'll go ahead and relabel this. We'll insert the container, and you can see with one label it's not going to be perfect because it might swim a little bit, but we put that on absolutely with a good stack of labels in there. Looks fantastic. Great overlap within a 1/16 of an inch. Obviously it's clearing from the ridges. Looks fantastic. If I wanted to make a small adjustment, let's say I wanted that label just to be a tad lower, I can move my guide. And you can see on this particular unit, we would actually be hitting the aluminum cover. And what's really nice about the Advent 200 is we have a removable shoulder. So that removable shoulder, just have 2 Allen wrench or nuts here, and I'll just go ahead and take this off quickly. And this is what allows you to do really tall containers and not have to worry about hitting the frame of the machine. We have an open frame on this right hand side. So let me go ahead and take this off. And that will become particularly important when we do the filled containers with the caps. So again, that's on perfectly. Looks fantastic. Only puts a single label on there. I'll take these existing ones that have marking on them. You can see absolutely dead on. Looks fantastic. We'll do one more here. Again, perfect. Alright, so now we'll do the filled containers. Again, doesn't matter. Then you can move this guide out of the way. And the key to running it is just keeping your right hand by the cap. Just making sure that it's pressed up against this guide. And should work fantastic. Okay. Again, perfectly applied. And then we'll do one more. Only a single label. You could leave it on there as long as you need to. But you can see in a production environment, you'd be really pretty quick. Label goes on within a second. Take it off. Put the next one in. You can see 3 labels on within about a 1/16 of an inch each and every time. They look absolutely perfect. So that is the Advent 200 labeling these water bottles or these plastic containers with the recessed panel area. We're working with a synthetic label. We reviewed the changeover, how to set up the carriage to deal with the recessed panel area, adjusting the carriage to accommodate different diameters, and then also we showed the open frame here on the right hand side that allows you to deal with a tall container while still keeping the labels in the center line of the machine. Of course, you could move them over if you needed to. And the 200, at the end of the day, you just simply turn off the heater and walk away from the machine. If there's any questions, we could reach at 800-846-7716.